Long ago in the year 5400 BC, Endubsar, a master scribe of the ancient city of Eridu, survived and escaped a great cataclysm on Earth. Endubsar was a loyal servant and scribe of the royal extraterrestrial Enki, the Anunnaki prince, and a prominent leader among the Anunnaki gods, who were alien visitors with advanced technology. The following passage of Tablet 1 reads, "These are the true first-hand accounts and words of Endubsar, master and chief scribe of Eridu. In the 7th year of our Lord, after the great calamity, in the 2nd month, on the 17th day, I was summoned by my master, the Lord Enki, great God, benevolent fashioner of mankind, omnipotent and merciful. I was among the remnant of Eridu, who had escaped to the arid steppe, just as the evil wind was nearing the city, and I wandered off into the wilderness to seek withered twigs for firewood. And I looked up, and behold, a whirlwind came out of the south. There was a reddish brilliance about it, and it made no sound. And as it reached the ground, 4 straight feet spread out from its belly, and the brilliance disappeared. And I threw myself to the ground and prostrated myself, for I knew that it was a divine vision. And when I lifted my eyes, there were 2 divine emissaries standing near me, and they had the faces of men, and their garments were sparkling like burnished brass. And they called me by name and spoke to me, saying, 'You are summoned by the great Lord God Enki. Fear not, for you are blessed, and we are here to take you aloft and carry you unto his retreat in the land of Magan, and the island amidst the river of Magan, where the sluices are.' And as they spoke, the whirlwind lifted itself as a fiery chariot, and was gone. And they took me by my hands, each one grasping me by one hand, and they lifted me and carried me swiftly between the earth and the heavens, as the eagle soars, and I could see the land, the waters, the plains, and the mountains. Then they let me down on the island at the gateway of the great god's abode. And the moment they let go of my hands, a brilliance as I had never seen before engulfed and overwhelmed me, and I collapsed on the ground as though voided of the spirit of life. My life senses returned to me, as if awakened from the deepest sleep, by the sound of the calling of my name. I was in some kind of an enclosure. It was dark, but there was also an aura. Then my name was called again, by the deepest of voices. And although I could hear it, I could not tell whence the voice came, nor could I see whoever it was that spoke. And I said, 'Here I am.' Then the voice said to me, 'Endubsar, offspring of Adapa, I have chosen you to be my scribe, that you write down my words on the tablets.' And all at once there appeared a glowing in one part of the enclosure, and I saw a place arranged like a scribal workplace, a scribe's table and a scribe's stool, and there were finely shaped stones upon the table. But I saw no clay tablets, nor containers of wet clay, and there lay upon the table only one stylus, and it glistened in the glowing as no reed stylus ever did. And the voice spoke up again, saying, 'Endubsar, son of Eridu city, my faithful servant, I am your Lord Enki. I have summoned you to write down my words, for I am much distraught by what has befallen mankind by the great calamity. It is my wish to record the true course of the events, to let gods and men alike know that my hands are clean. Not since the great and first flood had such a calamity befallen the gods and the earthlings. But the great flood was destined to happen, not so the great calamity. This one need not have happened. It could have been prevented, and I, Enki, did all I could to prevent it. Alas, I failed. In the future shall it be judged, for at the end of days a day of judgment for my people there shall be." The voice fell silent. Then the great Lord spoke up again, saying, "It is for this reason that I will tell the true account of the beginnings and of the prior times, and of the olden times. For in the past the future lies hidden. For 40 days and 40 nights shall I speak, and you will write, 40 shall be the count of the days and the nights of your task here, for 40 is my sacred number among the gods. For 40 days and 40 nights you shall neither eat nor drink. Only this once of bread and water you shall partake, and it shall sustain you for the duration of your task." And the voice paused, and all at once there appeared a glowing in another part of the enclosure. And I saw a table, and upon it a plate and a cup. And I rose up there too, and there was bread on the plate, and water in the cup. And the voice of the great Lord Enki spoke up again, saying, "Endubsar, eat the bread, and drink the water, and be sustained for 40 days and 40 nights." And I did as directed, and thereafter the voice directed me to sit myself at the scribal table, and the glowing there intensified. I could see neither door nor aperture where I was, yet the glowing was as strong as the midday sun. And the voice said, "Endubsar the scribe, what do you see?" And I looked, and saw the glowing raid upon the table, and the stones and the stylus. And I said, "I see stone tablets, and their hue is blue as pure as the sky. And I see a stylus, as I have never seen before, its stem unlike any reed, and its tip shaped like an eagle's talon." And the voice said, "These are the tablets upon which you shall inscribe my words. By my wish they have been cut of the finest lapis lazuli, each with 2 smooth faces provided. And the stylus you see is a god's handiwork, its handle made of electrum and its tip of divine crystal. It shall firmly fit in your hand, and what you shall engrave with it shall be as easy as marking upon wet clay. In 2 columns you shall inscribe the front face. In 2 columns you shall inscribe the back of each stone tablet. Do not deviate from my words and utterances." And there was a pausing, and I touched one of the stones, and the surface felt like smooth skin, soft to the touch. And I picked up the holy stylus, and it felt like a feather in my hand. And then the great god Enki began to speak, and I began to write down his words exactly as he had spoken them. At times his voice was strong, at times almost a whisper. At times there was joy or pride in his voice, and at times pain or utter agony. And as one tablet was inscribed on all its faces, I took another to continue. And when the final words were spoken, the great god paused, and I could hear a great sigh. And he said, "Endubsar, my servant, for 40 days and 40 nights you have faithfully recorded my words. Your task here is completed. Now take hold of another tablet, and on it you shall write your own attestation, and at the end thereof, as a witness of this event, mark it with your seal, and take the tablet, and put it together with the other tablets in the divine chest. For at a designated time chosen ones shall come hither, and they shall find the chest, and the tablets, and they shall learn all that I have dictated to you, and that the true account of the beginnings and the prior times, and the olden times, and the great calamity, shall henceforth be known as the words of the Lord Enki, and it shall be a book of witnessing the lost past in the future times." And there was a pause, and I took the tablets and put them one by one in their correct order in the chest. And the chest was made of acacia wood, and it was inlaid with gold on the outside. And the voice of my Lord said, "Now close the chest's cover and fasten its lock." And I did as directed. And there was another pause, and my Lord Enki said, "And as for you, Endubsar, with a great god you have spoken, and though you have not seen me, in my presence you have been. Therefore you are blessed, and my spokesman to the people you shall be. You shall admonish them to be righteous, for in that lies a good and long life. And you shall comfort them, for in 70 years the cities will be rebuilt, and the crops shall sprout again. There will be peace, but there will also be wars. New nations will become mighty, kingdoms shall rise and fall, The olden gods shall step aside, and new gods shall decree the fates. But at the end of days, destiny shall prevail, and of that future it is foretold in my words about the past. Of all that, Endubsar, to the people you shall tell. And there was a pause and a silence, and I, Endubsar, bowed to the ground and said, "But how will I know what to say?" And the voice of the Lord Enki said, "The signs will be in the heavens, and the words to utter shall come to you in dreams and in visions. And after you there will be other chosen prophets. And in the end there will be a new earth and a new heaven, and for prophets there will be no more need." And then there was silence, and the auras were extinguished, and the spirit left me. And when I regained my senses, I was in the fields, outside Eridu, seal of Endubsar, master scribe. These are the words of the Lord Enki, firstborn son of Anu, who reigns on Nibiru. Here is the account of the prior times and olden times, a history and overview of the Anunnaki Atlantean civilization and the chronicles to Earth that occurred. Long ago, before the prior times was the beginning. After the prior times were the olden times. In the olden times, the gods came to Earth and engineered the earthlings. In the prior times, none of the gods were on Earth, nor were the earthlings yet engineered. In the prior times, the abode of the gods was on their own planet, Nibiru, its name, a great, wide-orbiting planet, reddish in radiance, creating an extended orbit around the sun. There are times that Nibiru is involved in cold, and other times that the bright sun shines again. Nibiru is involved with a thick atmosphere. This atmosphere is constantly fueled by volcanic eruptions. In the cold period, the atmosphere keeps the heat, like a coat that covers the entire planet. In the warm period, the atmosphere protects Nibiru. In the middle periods, between heat and cold times, the rains gain strength, offering consistency to lakes and rivers. Nibiru is covered in lush vegetation that feeds and protects the atmosphere. From them all kinds of life arouse in both the waters and land, due to the Pleiadians that seeded the planet millions years before for natural and evolving life. After eons of time, the forgotten royal hybrid species found refuge on empty Nibiru after being exiled from all other civilizations due to the rejection of their mixed heritage of Draconian and Lyran ancestry. It was there our people gave ourselves the name Atlanteans. Over time, the Atlanteans of Nibiru multiplied and took place in the valleys, plains, and mountains. They set up homes, built cities, and civilizations began. It was then, at this time period, millions of races left the Orion and Pleiadian star clusters due to the wars and came to Nibiru for refuge. Our society is one of many people of numerous civilizations, and our ancestors welcomed them. However, rivalries began to occur. Brother amassed against brother. Clans gathered into tribes. Then two polar nations of Atlanteans of Nibiru were established. The nation of the north against the nation of the south took up arms and set up weapons of terror against each other. Death and destruction swept across the lands, both north and south. Destruction overtook all of Nibiru. For a long time, desolation took place on Nibiru. In time, the Anunnaki Atlanteans' history and interstellar connections faded into myths. However, during the ensuing era of wars on Nibiru, they reclaimed much of their lost technological prowess and consciousness. Sacred remnants of their past, including ancient nuclear warheads and advanced lasers, were revered and meticulously studied, leading to renewed scientific advancements. However, the larger cosmic community, abiding by non-intervention principles, allowed the Atlanteans of Nibiru to chart their own destiny, by this time of discovering their relics of the past, and finished with the killings from both sides. The North and South nations decided to declare a truce, and soon cries of peace arose everywhere. Nations shall unite, and only one throne shall there be on Nibiru. Let there be one king to rule them all, they declared. The chosen king should be of native Atlantean blood, to the north or the south. A consort would also be chosen, but from the opposite region. Thus, husband and wife were one flesh, and the child born of their union would be the successor. With a new royal dynasty would soon be formed. The one chosen to rule was a mighty warrior and commander from the north. By lots, true and fair, was he chosen. His decrees in unity were accepted. For his abode he built a great city called Agade, meaning unity. He was given the 0 hours, 14 minutes and 51 second, 480 title of An, which means celestial. Thus order was re-established in the land's laws and regulations. For his spouse the south a maiden had chosen. For both love and warring she was noted. Antu was her royal title, the leader who is An's spouse. The given name cleverly meant. She bore An 3 sons and no daughters. The firstborn son was by her named Anki. Anki remained alone on the throne, even though the concubines who came to the palace did not bear him children. Thus the dynasty that had just begun was interrupted as soon as he died. The middle son, though not the firstborn, was named the rightful heir. He received the title of Anib, which means the one in the middle, to justify his position among the brothers. Anib married Nenib, which means the lady of Ib. Together they had a son named Anshargal, the successor to the throne and the fourth of the kings to rule Nibiru. His wife was his half-sister, Kishargal. Of his reign had been the greatest legacy. His intention and goals was to unify the people, and he did it when the northern feast and the southern feast that served everyone. It was in the reign of Anshargal and Kishargal that the law of husband and wife, and of sons and of daughters was created. These customs of the first tribes of Nibiru were established to be followed. The law had been written. It stated that a woman should be chosen as an official wife, and this was the first wife. From the many wars, females greatly outnumbered the males. Decrees were made. One male was to have more than one female. By law, one wife as official spouse would be chosen. She would be known as the first wife. By law, the firstborn son would be his father's successor. Confusions, disputes, and wars did not take long to be created. If the firstborn son was not from the first wife's, but the second son was, who would be the legitimate heir. On Anshargal's reign, concubines were once again brought into the royal palace, and so the concubines had sons and daughters. Sometime later, the legitimate wife, Kishargal, had a son. By law, the son of Anshargal and Kishargal was the rightful heir, though not the firstborn. Kishargal, his mother, Anshargal's true and lawful wife, shouted angrily, "If according to the norms my son of a firstborn wife is deprived of the succession, do not let the double seed be neglected. Although from different mothers, the king and I are descended from the same father, the king. I am the king's half-sister, and from me, the king is also half-brother. So my son has the double seed of our father, Anib. Let, in succession, the law of the seed over the law of marriage prevail. Let, in succession, the son of a half-sister, whenever he is born, rise above others in succession." And Anshargal the king decided, as Kishargal his wife and half-sister had said. Their son, though not the firstborn, was proclaimed the next king. The law of seed had been adopted for succession, and thus the divergence between lawful wife and concubine had been decided. The new king was given the title of Anshar, the fifth on Nibiru's throne. Anshar took his half-sister named Kishar as his wife. And so, even if Anshar had children by the concubines, the rightful heir would be Thesan of the king and queen. During his reign, Nibiru's fields reduced their harvests, and much of the food source lost their abundance. From cycle to cycle, from shar to shar, the problems grew more and more. In time, sages and scholars had been called to investigate what was happening. Some said it had happened before, and on that time, it was happening again. That was Nibiru's destiny, they said. Others concluded that a hole had appeared in the atmosphere and that volcanoes no longer erupt as before, which made the air more tenuous, and Nibiru's protective shield considerably reduced its level of efficiency. Under these conditions, others concluded that a hole had appeared in the atmosphere and that volcanoes no longer erupted as before, which made the air more tenuous, and Nibiru's protective shield considerably reduced its level of efficiency. Under these conditions, the sixth king had assumed the throne. Enshar was his name, son of Anshar and Kishar, and meant noble master of the Shar. Enshar studied a lot and looked for an answer in other planets and atmospheres. He gave the planets different names honoring their ancestors.